Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, where I fear that I have to say, just perchance, Robotaxi's new geofence says more about the current state of the tech industry than even I want to admit to. So, the new geofence has come out for Tesla's Robotaxi in Austin, and it might be NSFW. It might not be safe for work, and I talked about this yesterday. Yes, that's right. This is the new geofence for the Robotaxi service in Austin, Texas. Harder, better, faster, stronger is literally the caption that Robotaxi itself gave. Some people are like, no, Eli, that's just the T. That's T for Tesla, upside down. And if you scroll down on their own page, well, not this particular page, but on the other page, they talk about that they really have a fondness for eggplant. But anyways, I talked about this yesterday, and I talked about just the idiocy of this, right? You're looking at Tesla. The results are for the Q1 sales have come in. Sales are down significantly for Tesla. The Cybertruck is a failure for Tesla. The implementation of Robotaxi is lackluster, to be kind about it. Then we have the whole competition with BYD in China. We have the tariffs, and we have, Trump quite literally talking about deporting Elon Musk. So you have all of this stuff going on, and I just find it a bit weird that the CEO of Tesla decides in this particular economic, business, and political environment that he is going to make yet another joke out of, something that should be rather boring and blasé. Anyways, I talked about that yesterday and the whole question of what does this mean for Elon Musk. Well, the curious thing that then comes out is, and I did research it and I took a look into it, but apparently one of the things that wasn't being discussed a lot yesterday when I found that particular post from Robotaxi is that the geofence for Robotaxi is now actually larger than Waymo. Right? And so that's where the Musk stands came out and they said, Eli, you're missing the point. It's larger. Their geofence is larger than Waymo. Right? That's a penis. Theirs is a vagina. Who do you think gets screwed in this particular situation? All right. It proves that Robotaxi is the correct way of doing things. Elon Musk is right yet again, and he is going to take over the world. All right, but the funny thing is, you start looking into this, it just gets so stupid so quickly. And I think this is a thing that you really need to be thinking about in the technology world right now. This whole question of, but do the specs matter? Do the specifications that you are reading, that have been provided to you, actually matter? Does this do anything for you, right? I think about this like with graphics cards nowadays. If you go and you watch Gamers Nexus and you go through all of their spreadsheets, apparently that's what's popular to do in the tech world now, is show people spreadsheets. If I wanted to become a popular YouTuber, I would show you a lot of spreadsheets. Anyways, they go through the spreadsheets. And one of the curious things is where some of the games out there, like a lot of these very high-end graphics cards, actually, in fact, don't do a hell of a lot for you, right? NVIDIA is pushing more and more features into their graphics cards, and many of those features are actually very irrelevant. So it's like, oh, look, this NVIDIA graphics card has all of these features, and 90% of them do not, in fact, matter to you. And so one of the things to be looking at is when you're looking at this product or service by a company, is there a practical benefit to the specifications that they're giving you? I think about this a lot with artificial intelligence, right? Anyways, right, there's all this AI stuff. And if you go back 2 years when ChatGPT came out, every month or so, there is an improvement, there are competitors out there, and so you got better and better and better and better and better. And one of the things I argue in 2025 and going forward is this whole question of, but do you really need things to be better? Will a 1-year-old model, will a 2-year-old model that is a hell of a lot less expensive, a hell of a lot less resource intensive, provide you the exact same results that you need, that the highest end model will give you? If you just simply need to summarize an article or pull out specific information, basically regex. You need to do a complicated regex or something like that. Will 3.5 turbo do what you need done, and you don't need the 4.0 model with the cost that goes along with it, right? I think that's one of the things to really be thinking about as you look at all these different products and services. And why this comes up with Robotaxi, and I find this interesting, is so Robotaxi comes out with a lackluster debut, right? Okay, so they put 10 to 20 cars out on the road in a small service area. Waymo is already in numerous cities, and so that looks pretty sad. Right? Well, then they massively increase the service area for Waymo, and now it is 10 miles, 10 kilometers, something like 5 miles bigger, their service area. So now, obviously, Robotaxi is better than Waymo because they have a bigger area in one city. But then when you start looking at it, though, it does appear that they still only have 10 to 20 vehicles on the road. So Waymo has approximately 1,500 vehicles on the road, and Robotaxi has 10 to 20 vehicles on the road. And that kind of, skews your image of, who is actually doing better than that now, right? 10 vehicles on the road. It's 10 vehicles in a larger area versus, it's not 1,500 in one town alone, but 1,500 cars total spread across. It starts to make Waymo look a little bit better. Then the other thing you start looking at is things like pricing. So this needs to be a business, right? Tesla cannot continuously lose money forever and ever and ever. The Robotaxi is cool and all, but if you don't turn it into a business, who the hell cares, right? So Robotaxi comes out, it's $4.20 for a ride. Why? Because we joke. As CEOs do. CEOs go to the best marketing minds in the world to get their weed jokes. Anyways, so now that they have a larger area, apparently the price is going to go up to $6.90. They're upgrading from the weed joke to the sex joke. Well, the curious thing is, if you're looking at this as a business, is Waymo is charging between $20 to $30 average for a ride. So Waymo charging $20 to $30 average for a ride, that's 250,000 rides per month, and has 1,500 cars on the road. Robotaxi has 10 to 20 cars on the road, charging $6.90 a month in one city where they have a larger geofence. And so it really, I'm just bringing these numbers up here to show you how different people and how different organizations and companies can try to use very specific numbers to try to skew the conversation. Obviously, Robotaxi is winning because they have a larger, geofenced area in Austin, and they've only been on the road for 3 weeks. And I look at it, and it's like, well, they're still charging introductory rates where they're probably losing money on every ride. They only have 10 to 20 vehicles on the road. Waymo's already in multiple cities. Right, but that's the thing, is how do you look at those specifications? What actually matters for you? I'll be vaguely curious to see what goes on with Robotaxi. My bias and my opinion with all of this is I think actually vehicle form factor is going to win the day. If I had to put my bet, I would put it on vehicle form factor. I am much more interested in Zoox than either of these, Robotaxi or even Waymo. And the reason being is basically it's a toaster on wheels. I find those toasters on wheels to be so sexy, right? They're very tall to get into. They're relatively spacious for being small vehicles. There's something you could adapt to have wheelchairs, right? Actually caring about handicapped people. Imagine if Elon Musk gave a muck about folks like handicapped people, right? If you look at it, if you look at the robotaxis that Elon Musk has stated that he wants Tesla to produce, they're these two-seat things that look like 1980s versions of Miatas, right? They're just small little vehicles. I have to say, even me, I'm only about 50 years old, but I've got a kind of a bit of a gimpy back. Getting low into the ground into one of those things just does not seem like the greatest experience in the world. Waymo, I've seen the Waymo vehicles driving around Atlanta when I was spending a good amount of time in Atlanta. They seem decent enough, but they're still that car form factor. I personally think like the Zoox form factor, toaster on wheels is probably going to be the better way to go with these, but who the hell knows? So we'll see where this goes into the future. Who will win? Who will lose? What could Tesla do if they had a CEO that worked for them more than one day a week? Imagine if Tesla had a CEO that wasn't also trying to create a political party and wasn't also running a rocket company, wasn't also running, a boring company, wasn't also doing Neuralink, and wasn't also doing all these other things. Imagine if a $1 trillion company had a CEO that came into the office every goddamn day of the week. But anyways, we know when employees are doing work from home, they're lazy, worthless bastards that should just have the balls to quit. When your CEO, shows up whenever the hell he wants to show up, well, I mean, he's a CEO. It's not the same. So what do you think about this? What do you think about the Robotaxi service being 10 kilometers, I guess it's 3.9 miles, bigger in Austin, Texas? What do you think about the initial rollout of this, the debut? Again, the advertising from Tesla about this is more about it looking like a penis than anything else. What do you think about this with comparing Waymo and Robotaxi and trying to say that Robotaxi somehow has the upper hand here? How do you think this is all going to work out at the end of the day? I don't know. Put your thoughts down below. The big thing I just want you to be thinking about with all of this is just like what is relevant? When you're looking at specifications, whether you're looking at graphics cards or whether you're looking at AI or whether you're looking at Robotaxi or whatever else, what are the stats that matter? I think about this with, bottlenecks, system bottlenecks years ago, right? When SATA drives came out, so we used to have IDE drives, and they turned into SATA drives, and then they turned into solid state SATA drives. And the interesting thing is, right, a lot of people were focused on their CPUs, right? Oh, I got to have the faster CPU. Oh, I got to have the bigger RAM or whatever else. And the amazing thing that I saw is when I went from an IDE drive to a SATA drive, holy hell. Right, the CPU. Who the hell cared about the CPU? Who the hell cared about the RAM? Right, the throughput using a SATA connection was just so much faster. My computer really was just a hell of a lot better. Same thing is true is when we went from platter drives to solid state drives. Right, the CPU. Right, you could get a 1 gigahertz faster CPU, and the performance of your system wasn't that much better. You go to a solid state drive from a platter drive, and you really see their performance. So are you focused on the right specs? I think about this like now, if you're dealing with AI and systems, the whole thing like with RAM, right? Everybody focuses on the size of RAM. How big is your RAM? But one of the things you have to consider is when you're building your systems, especially servers or whatever, and you're thinking about throughput, is the size of the RAM the most important thing for you, or is the speed of the RAM? How fast data goes in and out? So honestly, like if you have the option between 32 gigs of RAM or 128 gigs of RAM, upgrading to 128 gigs of RAM might not actually give you the boost that you think you need. You might only be using 20 gigs of RAM, right? Your system might only use 20 gigs of RAM. You got 32, you boost to 128. Who the hell cares? Because it's still only using 20. On the other hand, if you increase the speed of the RAM, you buy a better quality RAM, so it's faster, that might actually give you results that you care about. So these are the things to be thinking about when you look at all this stuff in the tech news or whatever else. What specs actually matter to you? And when people are pushing this stuff in front of your face, also just start looking at what specs that they're not talking about. Because wow, they have 10 cars in a bigger area. That proves something, all right. That, you know what that means. No, I really don't know what that means. Anywho, give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down, give us a great comment or a horrible comment. It is the YouTube world, so all that matters is the interaction with that. See y'all later.